In our first situation, the 9-ball is frozen or almost frozen to the rail, it doesn't matter, and we have to make the 9-ball directly into this corner pocket. The problem is, this is a cut that is bigger than 90 degrees and this is just not possible. Well, hold on, if you're watching my videos on a regular basis, you should know that this is possible. Even though this is not the shot you're going to learn today, I'm going to explain it to you real quick. All you have to do is, if this is the ghost ball, aim as close as possible to the left side of the 9-ball and use maximum right spin on the cue ball. That way the cue ball will come, the right spin will grab on the rail and actually make the 9-ball into the corner pocket. But this shot is very difficult to execute from that distance, and the scratch into this corner pocket is always on. So instead we're going to play an intentional double kiss on the 9-ball. So all you have to do for that, aim almost straight on the 9-ball, just a tiny bit to the left, so that you're cutting the 9-ball just a tiny bit to the right. What will happen is the cue ball and the 9-ball will double kiss. The 9-ball should go towards here and into the pocket. And you also have to hit maximum low on the cue ball, because that way the 9-ball will have follow and stay a bit more on this side of the table or goes towards the pocket. So let me show you how this would look. So again, hitting low on the cue ball, just a tiny bit to the right. Then let's double kiss it in. You can see how easily this ball goes in, and you have a bit more margin for error where exactly you will need to hit the 9-ball. Don't hit too far on the left. What will happen if you're doing that is the 9-ball will actually go a bit more towards here. So again, low on the cue ball, I'm aiming this time a bit too far to the left. And you can see that way the cue ball goes also a bit more to the left. The 9-ball goes a bit more towards here. This is an indication that you're hitting too far on the left. And what happens if you're aiming perfectly straight onto the 9-ball, then the 9-ball also won't go in. So let's do that. So perfectly straight. The cue ball will come back. I actually hit it a bit on the right side, and you also have no chance to make the 9-ball into the pocket.
By the way, this can also work if the 9-ball is significantly further away from the corner pocket, but you have to hit a lot harder, and it even works if the cue ball is just a bit off the rail but not too far.
In our next 8-ball situation, we again are in a horrible spot because we are on stripes and we have to bring the cue ball towards that direction, and this is really difficult even with ball in hand. What happens if you put the cue ball like that and shoot the 9-ball down table? Then of course the cue ball will scratch into the side pocket, so this doesn't work. What we could also do is just put it like this, play a stop shot, but again from here, playing that 8-ball that is far away is really difficult. We have an option. If the 9-ball is a bit further towards here, then we can actually shoot the 9-ball through the point of the side pocket by hitting as hard as possible. But in our case, the 9-ball is right here. So how can we bring the cue ball actually towards that direction? Well, there is a really clever trick. We're not going to put the cue ball towards here where we're just straight with a stop shot. We're actually placing the cue ball in that side pocket, and as you can see, if you're now shooting the 9-ball, the cue ball will go into that direction. And this is not an easy shot, but it will definitely give you an option to bring the cue ball into that direction with a nice position on the 8-ball. And for our final trick, guess what? We are in a horrible 8-ball situation again. We have a couple of variations for this type of shot. First of all, if both balls are perfectly frozen to the rail, then I would recommend to just play a follow shot, follow the cue ball and play the 8-ball all the way into the corner pocket.
I cheated the pocket, but you can't rely on this, and the scratch into the corner pocket is really dangerous, so depending on the layout of your opponent's ball, you can also play this kind of safety shot.
But once the cue ball is just a tiny bit away from that rail, we can actually play the first great escape, which is just elevating our cue a tiny bit, hitting above center and actually make the cue ball jump onto the rail or a tiny bit onto the rail. Then it goes out to the center of the table and you have a nice shot on the 8-ball. Just make sure not to elevate too much and don't hit too hard, because that way the cue ball might jump off the table. If the 9-ball is not frozen to the rail but a bit away and you still have that angle where the cue ball just goes a tiny bit to the right, you can play the same shot where we're just hopping onto the rail. If we're perfectly straight, then it's a different story. You could maybe just cheat the pocket a bit to the right or a bit to the left and still hop onto the rail, but I wouldn't recommend this because this is very dangerous, especially on tight pockets. My pockets aren't that tight, so it's possible. Here you could, for example, play a wop shot that you should probably know from the previous episode of this series. Real quick, elevate your cue, use left spin because you want to get to the left, then aim a bit more to the right because the cue ball will curve to the left, and that way the cue ball will actually go again to the center of the table. And if you are even further away and perfectly straight, then here you can actually draw the cue ball back because there is no risk to actually stretch. Use a tiny bit of right spin. You can see that right spin brings the cue ball a bit more to the center of the table, and that way you get position for the 8 ball.
You definitely can argue that those shots won't come up that often, but just one day after I was recording the footage for the double kiss shot, it came up in an actual match and my opponent was really speechless. So if you were enjoying this video, then please consider to leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching guys, and as always, see you at the next lesson. Take care.